make sure everybody's ready. Says to make sure everybody's ready, but it's just me recording myself. I want to talk about voting. I want to talk about voting systems. Electronic voting, actually, specifically, because I'm in USA, and there's only like 2 vendors that do this in the USA. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I even feel like I wrote some code for myself ages ago, but I'm unable to find it at the moment. And I am going to do some digging around maybe one of these days to try to find that shit that I was thinking about. But I thought, oh, I'll just make a little video real quick where I at least put the pedal to the metal here, put out what I'm thinking about, how maybe just how I think the universe should work. And I have something here that's just stupid keys that I made. I'm looking around in my data set, and I have this thing called Box Pop from 2018, but I'm not doing any of that anymore. So let's just start some new something or other, right? There used to be a spot where Google had some play canvas, and I don't know where that is anymore. So I'm just going to make myself a new document. I'm going to call it box. I'll come back to why I'm calling that in a little bit. Got my Google shit here. Okay, so when we talk about electronic voting and oops, let me do this thing I meant to do a second ago. I'm going to share my screen. It's finding my old code. I had this thing called voxpop.vote, voxpopuli.vote way back in 2018. I never got anywhere with it. I talked to myself about it and, never made it anywhere. Now I'm talking about it in real life. I might have something on one of my other systems. Oh, I do. I wonder if it is actually even still active. How long has this even been around? Here's another thing I found, which I was calling box.adocio, Adocio. This thing says it goes back to 2011, but that was probably copied in. 2019 seems like a more reasonable thing. This is a structure for like web apps that I make. Oh shit, that website still resolves. I wonder what's there. Wow, this old ass web page is still here from, this is like one of my OG web designs for Adocio. Look, if you're inclined, you can go back and you can look at how we did these rounded corners. It's not the modern CSS way. But this is a thing I've been thinking about. Vox touchscreen terminal in the polling place, reasonably good election database. That's a polling database. Somehow I want to have a lot of transparency somehow in the system. And so electronic voting, that's the thing I'm talking about. One thing we want to talk about, people like paper ballots. And I don't know how it works where you live, but where I live, we have a motor voter registration. So you just get like your driving license, and then boom, you're registered to vote. You're like in the system. Although I think it might take like one voting cycle to get you in there or something, because I moved here, Massachusetts, and then I've got my driving license, and then the first time I went to vote, they were like, "Hey, we don't know who you are. You got to do a thing." I was like, "Oh, dang." Fortunately, it was just like the city, so I was able to get on time for the next. But folks like paper ballots, that's like a requirement. In-person voting is another use case. Let's tag this like it's use case. Paper ballots, got to do in-person voting, got to do vote Vote by mail. That's what we do. MA. I'll write MA on there. I think Washington also does that. I used to live in Washington, and I remember like you'd get your ballot, and then you could either drop it at a drop box next to like the library or something, or it just goes in the post. So vote by mail is also really like a popular way. I don't know if I'm in on paper. I don't know if I'm in on like paper ballots, but there's a lot of noise on the internet and in media made that like paper ballots is the only thing you can trust. So maybe we will just like agree that that is true and say that that's okay. But something that I was always frustrating for me, and uh, I filled out my ballot and then I put it in an envelope, scribble on that, put that in another envelope. That goes in the mail. I send that off. And then maybe you get like a little tear off piece at the top with some like serial identifier on it or something. And it says like, oh yeah, we counted your vote, but what'd you count my vote as? You know, we got to have integrity in the system. I should be able to somehow, audit my own vote. And that's not anytime anybody's been talking about it. They said, oh, you got to get paper ballots. That's all we can trust. Except all the paper ballots, I send it off. Still goes into a private little room. A bunch of people who I don't even know go in and count it and say, oh yeah, sure. This guy voted for Bo Biden or this guy voted for Donald Trump. But do I get to see how my vote was actually reconciled into the system? Do I get to know that? And some people do lots of finger wagging and say, oh, well, the system was rigged. So like, how can you fucking prove the system is rigged? You sent your vote in and was your vote counted? You can look it up. It says, oh yeah, we got your ballot. But did you get my ballot? And put all of my, intention into that. Did that make it through to the system? So anyways, people want to vote by mail, something. And I'm going to just call this like needs. You need a good voter roll. And that's the thing that's like the first part of this. You got to have a good voter roll. You need to know like positive identification of that voter and and where they live, so you know who they're going to be. So positive voter ID. This is a requirement. There's noise made about whether or not the voter is a citizen, whether or not they're qualified to vote, and I think that's solved right here. Like that's not a technology problem so much because these folks is going to show up with paperwork necessary when you register to vote. I don't think proving citizenship, proving this identity, proving this other thing, and proving this other thing at the time of polling is the right answer. Prove it when I register, and then that registered voter who's been positively identified at that time gets to take that positive voter identification from the polling mechanism, or from the voter roll mechanism, excuse me, into the voter polling mechanism and execute one vote, one person, one vote. Like I feel like everybody agrees one person should get one vote. So positive voter ID on the voter roll. I'm gonna back the step up a second here because I'm talking about some things, and I don't know if everybody's on the same page with me, but there's two discrete components. There's more than that, but there's two at the top level, right? The first thing you have is the voter roll / registration. This thing seems to keep wanting to suggest that for me. Thanks, Google. But you got the voter roll side of the thing, like who is the registered voter? That's one system that is, all of this is USA centric. So in USA, it's very typically managed by like a state election system, unless it's a smaller level county or city or some other sub-administrative area. Polling, maybe they administer their own, but a lot of this stuff, and even at the federal election layer, that's executed by a state's, or there's 5 commonwealths, state or a commonwealth's election department of the government there. The other side of it is you have the voter vote. You'll have to forgive my fingers; they've been drinking. Voter poll side of the thing, like, and that's also, could be considered the ballot. And so that's the other side of that thing. So on voter roll, we got to give positive voter ID when you register to vote. We need to know who you are. We need to know you're not double registering. We need to know that you're qualified to vote in that region. And sometimes there's interesting little things there that a region has, like, oh, you've just moved here. Well, you haven't lived here for 30 days, and you have to live here for 30 days, and then you can register to vote, and you must be registered to vote 30 days before the election. So if you move to a spot like 45 days before an election, you can't meet those qualifications to be registered to vote for that region. And I don't know if you get to vote in your old region. I recently did move across the country, and I was unable to vote in an election in the state that I moved away from. And then I landed here, and like I said earlier, I was not on the registration for the first election that I thought I qualified for being here. And we are a motor voter state. So I don't know, maybe that's just I was a victim of the complexity of the voter registration mechanism. So on the voter roll, positive voter ID, I feel like that's all we really got to do on the registration side. Make sure that they are qualified to vote. And on the pool, let's go swimming. On the voter polling side, like, you need to have an accurate ballot. And that means things like it's got to have the right candidates. It's got to have the right, what's it called? Any propositions or questions or whatever your state or commonwealth calls that mechanism. Your county, because you're here, your county may have some county level questions, and your city may have some city level questions. So that means, all necessary, what should we call them? Options. Federal, also called national, nation, AL, national, state, SA1, sub-administrative region 1. Just as a note for self, your county, and your city, which I'll just say SA3. Just making like BS notes in my own head here while I'm like riffing here in real time on what the system should do. I'm sort of looking at some of my notes from that 2019 directory that we saw, but I'm having to feel it out from code because I didn't even put a README in there like a dumbass. So here's my new README. I'm going to put the word README up there too, and you can see I'm scribbling a little markdown. This will make it into some code. I plan on prototyping these systems. So you need an accurate ballot. You need to support those 3 use cases that are critical at the top. A paper ballot, but then paper ballot actually works itself for both in person and vote by mail. So live, real time. And that's going to have a paper ballot. And I want to have a confirmed receipt. I hope I spelled that right. I guess it'd have like a red squiggle if I'd done it wrong. All right. And so then the other thing you got to do is by mail. That's also a paper ballot. Paper ballot. Fuck this editor. Confirmed. Let's see. Man, I feel like that's okay. So like maybe you can use the whole thing. One thing I really want is like online internet voting portal. I have this dream, and you might have seen it from this old ass web page. Damn, I wonder if there were screenshots. Damn, I didn't put any screenshots. I kind of shit the bed on this. This page has been here since last updated in 2011. But my directory for it was showing 2019. That could have been when I moved all the crap onto this server. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I never bothered to publish it. Like, shy about being on the internet anyhow, something like that. But no mas. Okay, so I wanted an online internet voting portal. I feel like I'm doing online banking. Banks are doing online banking. Traders are doing online trading. They are trading on a daily basis massive amounts of money. By which I mean to like just highlight, we have these secure encrypted systems that can communicate with each other that do very, very important things with millions of different individuals, millions of dollars, more than that, on a daily basis. And we sort of all just put a whole lot of trust in that. You know, you've swiped your credit card on a little widget that's plugged into somebody's phone. You're like, this ought to work, you know? And you go to the internet and you can go to a website and click a couple of buttons and commit to a loan for a piece of property that's worth $1 million or 300,000 or some kinds of numbers. You can take out a big loan. You can have a trading account and trade lots of dollars on options as an individual, right? All of these things are worth hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, and they're happening with millions of people every day on these internet encrypted systems. So like, just seems reasonable that a similar kind of infrastructure with this reasonable level of encryption we could all trust somehow. Maybe voting is more important than that, but I think that the sum total of those activities that occur over the course of a whole year, and then voting that happens like one or a couple of days, or if you have mail in, there's a lot more options. Well, that's hard to quantify either one of those, but both very important, both worth a whole lot of value, and modern encryption technologies seem to be doing a very good job of keeping those transactions protected. So I feel like they should be able to keep votes protected somehow. So yeah, that's this basic design. It would be very hard to make a voting terminal, some hardware, online internet voting portal. It would be really the bee's knees. Excuse me, bee's knees. Like if you could get some registration mechanism from your state's election agency, you know, as your voter registration, and they send you the thing, and they say, "Oh, and here's your ballot," and magic, because we haven't figured that all out yet, right? This is phase one of infinity. And here's your ballot, and you can go to this special government-run website, fill out the data, and that registers your ballot in the system in real time. You know, so you could vote online in real time from your, fuck's sake, you do it from your mobile phone. If you know, if you can buy a house with your mobile phone, you should be able to, like, you know, vote from your mobile phone. Maybe I should just write here like a mobile phone voting. Put this as a question mark. Vote at home. Home online. Is online hyphenated anymore? Portal at polling place. And maybe, we got to wind it all the way back here. We say paper ballots. Lots of people like to finger wag and say, oh, paper ballots is the only way. Sure, sure. I obviously not smart enough to know the right answer there, but seems like any of these things could be an online voting mechanism that allows you to generate a PDF that you mail in. I say PDF. Let's take the brand out of there. Generate printable document. Oh gosh. Parens. I'll just say parens PDF because I do care about what the tech stack is. I did mean printable and I sure did mean document. Again, my fingers have been drinking. And then you could just mail that shit in. Mail in. I'll leave the profanity out. And that's how you know your voter is counted. But then afterwards, voter poll. That's where the voter gets their opinion registered. Critically important. Register my opinion. And then there's the count. Vote count. Ballot count. Is there any other fun words that people call this? Vote count, ballot count, resolution. I don't know. They say something like this. And so now we got to have a system that somehow this whole voter polling mechanism with an accurate ballot that's maybe got live in real time and is able to be confirmed and received and all that other stuff gets over here. Real time audit trail is another thing I'm thinking about. Like, it'd be cool if we were having folks vote online, then their vote could get registered in the system when they've filled out an online portal. And then they have the printable document that they can visually look at and verify. And then they fold that up and they mail that in. And now the election department's got a real-time vote from somebody. They got a paper confirmation from that person that they've sent in. And you could just at home, like, print 2 copies of your shit. And so now you've got your own little voter ballot receipt, right? You've got a receipt. Got the word receipt on any of this, then? Oh, confirmed receipt. And I'm going to write the word retained receipt. That's a feature set I think we need to have. So now I don't just fill out my ballot with a little square or a little oval shape with number 2 pencil and then mail it in and then say, oh, I hope they counted me all right. I should be able to say, well, I was vote some secret code that only I know that, doesn't map back to me. Oh, on this secret vote 1, 2, 3, 4. One even secreter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can go and look myself up, and I can see that they made sure that they counted my vote for whoever I picked, whichever asshole I picked, as if I'm not picking some asshole, right? Not to sound too jaded. So real time would be cool. Audit trail. This is a mail in confirmation. And mail in. Okay, guys, we got just maybe it's my drunk fingers, but yeah, put on my glasses so I can see this. Voter trail, ballot count resolution, mail my thing in, get an audit trail, mail in confirmation. And then I think something else that would be a cool feature, and this might be my wrap for today's rant on Vox. That's my name, Vox, for this. My thing would be when these votes are counted, when the system is integrated, there's 2 major parties in the USA. Depending on how you squint and look at it, maybe there's 4. And then it would be cool. There's also the state agency that runs the election that's involved. And then possibly you've got some, independent auditor if that happens. That does happen. That doesn't happen very frequently in USA, but there's some other countries that have I think it's like a UN observer or something like this that might look at elections sometimes. So, uh, multi, multi, multi. That's enough letters for multi. Multi-agency reporting, we'll call it. And so that would be where you would send your thing to a party, pol- political, political, fuck this, political party A, whole party B, C, D. I'm done with this. Anyways, you send it to those four parties, and then you send it to the state election agency. You guys, agency, and then you also sent it to who? What did I say? Independent observer. I'm going to just run spell check later. I'm kind of done with this, but that would be like the neat feature set there. So now I've got a nice voting system. If all of my dream on this thing that I've outlined here, and I've talked to a bunch of other nerd friends that I have who think that this project is incredibly too big for anybody to try to take on, and that's why I've decided to do this. Voter roll registration, you got to get positive identification of voters on the thing, and we need to make sure that one person gets one vote, and that vote can be verified and authenticated and counted properly. I labeled this section use case because I think this is like, call it common requirement. I hope I spelled that right. This is just based on what people say. They want paper ballots. In-person voting must be supported. We do that in the USA. Vote by mail also must be supported. We do that in the USA. I think that going to 100% electronic is not viable. Let's just write that down. 100%. Oh, look, auto corrected me. Yeah, try to spell check that shit. Now what? And then this is the stuff, I'm saying it needs. We got to have a good voter roll, positive voter ID. Already said that. Accurate ballot, all these different types of regions that do this, right? I got question one at my state. My county's got a school, something or other going. My city's got a local water assessment kind of shit going that we got to vote on, stuff like this. So got to be able to support that and also be able to have a mechanism that can construct the right ballot so that Essex County, Middlesex County, Sussex County can all get the right ballot. All the other counties that I love, sure, would be really awesome to be able to get a count or to get an advisory count in real time. Should I say advisory? As people are able to vote and they'll be able to vote electronically, possibly from their mobile or desktop or something, produce that paper ballot, send that in. But you could get real-time advisory feedback, even from larger counties, Los Angeles, San Francisco, things like this. But I want to be able to confirm my receipt. I voted in California, I voted in Washington, I voted in Massachusetts. I've never been at a spot where I filled out my ballot, told them who I wanted to be in what spot. Sometimes you feed it into a machine. You used to feed it into a machine and in the ballot procedure at Otis School, like this, and then my paper's gone, and I never knew what happened after that. That was California. Then I'm in Washington, so vote by mail. Da da da. Drop it in the thing by the mail at the library. Hope that it works. You know, and you could never know. I'd love to be able to get that confirmation. I'm gonna just like confirmed receipt and retained receipt. Man, this shit's a big deal to me. So highlight color, text color. I guess it's highlight color, man. What are we gonna do? Yellow? Nah, man, this shit's important. Big red. That is an ugly red. Not this. Sorry. What's up now? Also ass. None. I'm just doing that. This is also the same shit. Paper ballot, confirmed receipt. So like the state agency sends you something. The agency mails to the voter. What? VOTER. The agency mails to the voter, and they got a paper ballot, and there's a confirmed receipt, and maybe the agency gives you one. I mean, how would you? I don't know how on mail-in voting you'd be able to have a copy of one you filled out and a copy you can retain and make sure they're the same, because you could like make a mistake. A human would make a mistake between two, mail one in, and then retain one and go, oh well, this doesn't match. There's got to be a better way. I don't know what it is quite yet, but maybe the brain will figure something out. I'll be doing more videos and drinking. Agency mails to voter conspiracy online. Oh yeah, the online one is like maybe instead of mailing me the ballot, I can do something online and get duplicate copies of pieces of paper that I can know are for sure and legit. PDF, mail that shit in, and print it off from my home machine and mail it in, or go down to Kinko's or Pack Mail or whatever it is you got in your neighborhood. Print it, take it, print it from work, something like that. And then this last one is the mechanism for the tally. Tally. I didn't even use the word tally right there, man. Tally me fucking banana, though. Is that how you spell tally? Tally. Tally. Put that shit in yellow. Fucking banana. Plantains, too, I guess. They're good. I love them. And like this mechanism, we want to be able to support real-time audit trail, political party. Man, let's just correct all this shit. Political party. Come on, you fuck. Why aren't you highlighting for me to copy? There we go. State election agency, and an independent observer should all be supported. And sort of what I mean by all of this is, you, the voter, at the end of the day, should be able to look at when your vote gets counted by the universe or the election agency or some agency responsible for that vote tally. It should land in multiple independent systems. And then you could go and look at your own individual vote in the system to see, well, what did this system tell me my vote was? And it'd be really, really cool if, oh yeah, man. Back one level. Vote, tally, data, dumps. Be really, really cool if at the end of all this, all these guys could give us a vote tally data dump so that you could see, so we could all see, here's that audit trail. Audi trail. It was an Audi trail. Shit broke down and it's been in a mechanic for the last 4 weeks. And so these data dumps, like I'd be able to get a big old data dump, I get 7 million people live in my state. It's not 7 million people that vote, children, people who don't care about voting. But we should be able to download, what is it, like 40% of the people vote, 40% is 7. 40% of 8. Half of 8 is 4. 40% of 7, I'll just say 3 million without trying to think too much about it. But I should be able to download a file that contains 3 million lines of text, 1 line of text for every vote, and then columns going across for every single item that was on the ballot. Excuse me. And then with like my magic sauce, I should be able to just magic sauce with some kind of mechanisms for my voting ballot, my registered ballot. I should be able to find my line item. I should be able to invite 6 of my friends over to sit around my computer and look at a 3 million line text file. And they would each be able to look up themselves in the same text file and be like, oh, well, there's mine. And it matches my shit. Oh, and there's mine. And it matches mine. And then that's the kind of mechanism all these people, everybody could trust that. You could see your shit was in there, tallied up right. And because this file is big ass text file, anybody you know, not anybody you know, but a reasonable number of people that exist in the universe, and especially in USA, would be able to write scripts in their favorite programming language, Python or JavaScript or something, very popular in 2025, and parse through that whole file and run with their own tally. And if that thing's an accurate data dump, and you see the news agency and the state election agency says, oh, we had 1 million votes for Bo Biden or Donald Trump, 1 million votes here, 1 million votes there. Well, you'd be able to download that same data dump and go, oh, well, fuck's sake, I downloaded a copy of the data set from political party A, and they counted such and such a number. I downloaded from B, and they counted such and such a number. And the thing is, on a system like this, A, B, C, D, agency, independent observer, data sets you download from all of those cats should match up if they've all been able to register and count all the votes accurately. Now we got 6 counts, and especially on something like this, parties A, B, C, D, this is competitors agreeing with each other if that matches up. You know what I'm saying? This state election agency, they're supposed to be independent. They're supposed to be independent. But now we got 6, basically we got 6 jerks that don't like each other. And if those all that data sets agree and all that data sets available to the Gen Pop and we can download it and you can write a Python script and your friend who's a computer goober who you trust can look at it and say, oh yeah, the shit checks out, then you can trust the voting system. That's the end of the stuff. Everyone sees the audit trail. I'll just call it fat ass data dump. Fat ass data dump. All the votes. I'll say that. And then I did just sort of riff on this. I say 1 voter per row in options, votes per row, right? Like it would be the columns on the spreadsheet. So the next one of these, thanks for paying attention to my rant. Stop presenting. Thanks for paying attention to my rant. Next one, we're going to come around. I'm going to riff on some of the ideas on how to execute some of this stuff. I'm probably going to start off talking about the voter roll, voter poll, voter roll next. I'm going to do that one next. Then the next, I'm going to talk about voter polling mechanism, how to ask the voter the question. The third one, I'm going to come around and do just a top level riffing on how to tally the vote, how to count the vote, tally me banana, get that audit trail and get that data dump so folk can trust the system. If the proletarian can't trust the system, we've got a huge problem, and we need that. Very important. Like that's the top level importance. Thanks for coming to my rant.